Hey, I'm Julie Bacon, and this is Just Be Real with Julie, where we have real conversations about connection and what it takes to actually feel like yourself again. The other day, I was standing in line at the grocery store. There were three people ahead of me. Three. Three. Did you hear me say three? Not 30, not even 13, just three. And almost immediately, I felt myself getting irritated. I started looking around for another line and I checked the self checkout. I glanced at the cashier like maybe she should sense my urgency and somehow make the entire process move faster. And then I looked at the people in front of me. One woman was paying, another person was putting groceries on the belt, a third was standing there doing absolutely nothing wrong. And I caught myself thinking, when did I become this person? When did waiting behind three people become such an inconvenience? I mean, there was a time when standing in line at the grocery store was simply part of going to the grocery store. You waited, you looked at the magazines, you stared at somebody else's groceries and silently judged their cereal choices. You maybe talked to the person next to you. You survived. But now, even a few minutes can feel unreasonable, and maybe it's just me, but I have a sneaky suspicion that it's not. That little moment stayed with me, and it wasn't because it was dramatic. It was because it was so normal. I was not having a terrible day. I was not late for anything important. There was no emergency. I simply expected the process to move faster. And when it did not, I felt annoyed, and it got me wondering, when did convenience stop being something we appreciated and start being something we expected? Because convenience has changed almost every single part of our lives. We can order groceries without leaving the house. We can have dinner delivered to our front door. We can watch almost any movie whenever we want. We can ask a question and get an answer within 30 seconds. We can buy something while lying in bed at midnight and then become mildly offended if it takes more than 2 days for it to arrive. I've done that. I've ordered something I did not even know existed 20 minutes earlier and then checked the tracking information like I had been waiting for it my entire life. I once placed an order and checked the shipping status less than an hour later. And guess what? It had not moved. Of course, it had not moved. I just ordered it. Somewhere in a warehouse, the item was probably still trying to understand why it had suddenly become so important to me. But that is what convenience does. It does not only change what is possible, it changes what feels normal. The first time something becomes faster, it just feels amazing, right? And then we get used to it. And then the old speed starts feeling slow. The first time something becomes easier, it feels like a gift. Then we adapt. The old way, it starts feeling unnecessarily difficult. Psychologists have a term for this, and it's called hedonic adaptation. That sounds way more complicated than it is, I promise. It simply means that human beings get used to improvements very quickly. Something new happens, we feel excited, we appreciate it, and then little by little, it becomes our baseline. The extraordinary then becomes the ordinary. The luxury, that becomes the expectation. The thing we once thought was unbelievable becomes the minimum standard. Think about your first smartphone. Do you remember how incredible it felt? You could take pictures and check your email and use maps, search the internet, and contact almost anyone from one little device. It felt like carrying the future in your pocket. But now, they've been around a while, and Now it's kind of like if a web page takes 4 seconds to load, we're tapping at that screen like it's going to encourage it. The technology did not become less impressive. What happened was our expectations changed. And once our expectations change, it's difficult to remember what life felt like before them. I remembered when 2-day shipping sounded almost impossible. 2 days? How could something travel across the country and show up at my house in 2 days? Now, if an order says it may take 5 business days, I catch myself thinking, 5 days? Come on, what the hell are they doing bringing it by horse? There were people who crossed oceans in wooden ships, and here I am offended because a package may not arrive by Thursday. Perspective is humbling. But I do not think this is only about packages or grocery store lines. I think convenience has quietly changed our relationship with waiting. Waiting used to be a normal part of life. You waited for photographs to be developed. You waited for someone to call you back. You waited, remember? You waited for your favorite TV show to come on. And you waited for a letter. You waited for the bank to open. You waited for the information. You waited for the answers. And now waiting often feels like something has gone wrong. A website loads really slow. A message goes unanswered. A person takes too long to respond. A delivery is delayed. A decision remains uncertain. And our bodies react as if the delay itself is a problem. We become restless, impatient, and sometimes even anxious. I started wondering whether convenience has trained us to expect not only faster services, but faster lives. We want quick answers, immediate clarity, rapid healing, instant connection. We want to know where a relationship is going after 2 dates. We want a career decision to make sense immediately. And we want personal growth to happen because we listened to one podcast, read one book, or had one good conversation. We want to understand a lifetime of patterns by Tuesday. And when change takes longer than we expected, we assume that we're doing something wrong. But some things just can't be rushed. Trust takes time. Grief takes time. Healing and learning take time. Becoming honest with yourself takes time. And maybe that is part of why those things matter. They can't be ordered. They cannot be expedited. They cannot be delivered by tomorrow morning. They require something modern life keeps trying to remove. Friction. Think about it. We've become very uncomfortable with friction. Look at how many products advertise themselves by promising to eliminate that. One-click checkout. Skip the line. Instant approval. Auto renew. No waiting, no hassle, no effort, no interruption. And honestly, some friction deserves to disappear. I do not miss standing in line at the bank, I can tell you that. And I absolutely do not miss driving around with a giant paper map folded across the steering wheel while pretending I knew where I was going. I definitely would have failed if I was a realtor in those days. I was terrible with those maps. My 3rd grade teacher could even reinforce that. I would commonly tell everyone we were headed in the right direction while holding the map upside down. GPS, if you think about it, has probably saved several relationships. Because, the man always knows where he's going. Anyway, I am grateful for convenience. This is not an argument against technology or progress, but I do think that it is worth asking whether all friction is bad. Because friction also creates pauses, and pauses are good. It creates time to think. It creates opportunities to reconsider. It creates patience. It creates tolerance for discomfort. And sometimes it even protects us from ourselves. Imagine if every thought immediately became an action. Every angry message was sent the second we typed it. Every impulse became a purchase. Every attraction became a commitment. No. Every fear became a decision. A little friction, see, it can be useful. Sometimes it's that pause between wanting something and acting on it where wisdom enters. But many of the systems around us, well, they're now designed to remove that pause. If I see something I want, I can buy it in seconds. If I feel bored, I can immediately entertain myself. If I feel lonely, I can reach for a screen. If I feel uncertain, I can search for an answer. If I feel uncomfortable, I can distract myself before I even understand what I'm feeling. And the more often we escape discomfort instantly, well, the less practice we get tolerating it. And you know what? That matters because real life contains discomfort. Relationships contain misunderstandings. Careers contain uncertainty. Families contain conflict. Growth contains awkwardness. Even joy can feel uncomfortable when we're not used to receiving that. Life just does not operate like an app. There is no button that says, skip this part. There is no premium subscription that removes grief. And guess what? There's no same-day delivery for trust. No tracking number for becoming who you are meant to be. And I wonder whether our frustration with life sometimes comes from expecting it to behave just like technology does. Fast, predictable, efficient, responsive. But life is not always efficient, and people are not predictable. Healing is rarely linear. Answers do not always arrive on demand. And sometimes we have to sit in the not knowing. I do not love that. I would like to tell you that I am deeply involved and peaceful while waiting for clarity. I am not. Did you hear me? I am not that. Anyway, I have absolutely tried to force answers because uncertainty made me feel uncomfortable. I've replayed conversations, read between the lines, looked for signs, asked the same question in 5 different ways, hoping that one version would produce the answer that I was after. I have tried to speed up processes that simply were not ready to move. And usually, well, the harder I tried to force certainty, the more anxious I became. Because control can feel like safety. If I can predict what happens next, well, maybe I can prepare for it. If I can make someone respond, maybe I can stop wondering. If I can get the answer now, maybe I can relax. But you know what? Control and peace are not the same thing. Control says, I can relax when everything behaves the way I want. Peace says, I may not control what happens next, but I can choose how I meet it. That is a much harder idea, but it may also be a more honest one. The grocery store line was not really about the grocery store. It was about the fact that I had become so accustomed to speed that a few quiet minutes felt like an interruption in my life. I treated waiting as wasted time. But what if waiting is not always wasted? What if some of the moments that we rush through are the only moments in which our minds have a chance to catch up with our lives? Standing in line, sitting at a red light, waiting for the water to boil, waiting for a friend to arrive, or waiting for an answer. Those are the moments that used to exist without needing to be filled. And now many of us reach for our phones before we even realize that that's what we're doing. The second nothing is happening, it's almost like we're now trained to make something happen. And maybe that's why we feel so mentally crowded these days. We have removed almost every empty space. But empty space, well, it's not necessarily empty. As I have evolved here in the last 5 years, and I am to the point where once in a while I can stop and be in the moment, I've noticed that it's in those moments where thoughts surface and my feelings catch up with me. It's where ideas form. It's where I notice myself. That may be why silence can feel uncomfortable. It isn't because there isn't anything there, it's because something is there. And we may not know what it will say. So here's something that I would like you to try out this week. The next time you have to wait, do not immediately fill the space. Just stop. Just pause. It does not have to be a long wait. Maybe you're just in the checkout lane. Maybe you're sitting at a stoplight. Maybe your food is heating in the microwave. Maybe somebody is taking longer than you expected to respond. But during that pause, that moment when you don't fill that space with something, notice what happens inside of you. Do you feel restless? Do you feel annoyed? Do you reach automatically for your phone? Do you start trying to control the moment? Don't judge yourself and don't force yourself to become patient. Just notice, because the goal is not to prove that waiting is wonderful. Sometimes waiting is genuinely frustrating. The goal, instead, is to recognize what waiting brings up in us. And here's the question that I want you to carry with you. Where has convenience quietly become an expectation in your life? I'll say it again. Where has convenience quietly become an expectation in your life? And maybe the deeper question is, what happens inside you when life does not move at the speed that you want? Because convenience is a wonderful servant, but it can become a demanding master. And the things that matter most in life have never been fast. Maybe they're not supposed to be. In the next episode, I want to look at the trade that we rarely think about when we choose convenience. Because so many of the things that make our lives easier actually require something from us. Our information, our habits, our location, our preferences, pieces of our lives that we hand over one click at a time. And I've been wondering, How much do the devices and the companies around us actually know about us? And why have we become so comfortable letting them know? That's where we're going next. Thank you so much for being here. And remember, real moments, real people, and real connections still matter. This is Just Be Real with Julie, and I will see you next time. Oh, one more thing before you go. This week, pay attention to one moment when you're waiting. Not to judge yourself or force yourself to enjoy it. Just notice what the waiting brings up. I'll be curious what you discover. Bye-bye. Hey, it's Julie. Thanks for being here today. In my attempt to make a small difference in this big world, I'm asking for your help in continuing my ripple. I can start it, but I can't carry it alone. Like, share, follow, and help this message reach the people who need it. Thanks so much.